And next up on Toronto Boomers, some destinations to consider as we talk about taking a cruise. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Or perhaps we should say bon voyage, as you may want to book yourselves on a cruise after this next discussion.
I've only been on one cruise in my life. How about you?
None yet. I'm
well,
thinking.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, do think hard about it, because if you're a rookie seaman or a veteran, we have someone with us now who's going to give us some useful advice. We welcome Peter Wong, president and co-owner of Cruise Holidays Luxury Travel Boutique, located here in the GTA.
Peter, thanks for joining us. And let's start with a question for people like myself who have not taken cruises. What are some of the myths and misunderstandings about cruises? For me, it's always the idea that I'll get on this boat, I'll have seasickness or motion sickness, and it'll be a difficult, if not horrible, experience. Is that one of the myths?
That is one of the myths. I think a lot of people feel that seasickness is something that's common. It isn't. And a lot of our guests come back having enjoyed a wonderful trip. The ships are larger these days, so there's less motion that you feel. And there are river cruises as well, which are a wonderful opportunity to introduce yourself to a cruise.
It's a little tamer.
It's tamer.
Yeah, the waters aren't as rough.
Rivers are never rough. So it's a wonderful way to experience the cruise style of travel.
Peter, let's turn Helen's question around a little bit. What are the advantages of taking a cruise as opposed to a land-based holiday?
Well, it's a wonderful way to see many different parts of the country without having to pack or unpack. Sure. I mean, if you think about Europe, a lot of the major wonderful cities like Vienna and Budapest are built along the rivers. And a river cruise will take you from one city to another in a relaxing style. You don't have to sit in a coach for hours on end. You can go work out in the gym or sit by the pool with a glass of wine and watch the scenery go by. So that's one of the wonderful experiences of cruising. You bring your hotel with you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that boomers make up most of the market for cruises. I know there are young cruises, particularly, or younger people cruises in the Caribbean.
Or family cruises.
Or family cruises, but boomers are pretty much the biggest market for cruising, correct? And if so, why do they appeal more to the older group?
You'd be surprised. Boomers really haven't discovered cruising.
Wow.
They still think that it's their parents' vacation. But cruising as an industry has changed so much in the last 10 years. There's adventure cruises or expedition cruises that you can go on for the more active person. There are the traditional cruises like the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth that cross the Atlantic, which most people have this preconception that all cruises are like that. But the industry has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, and it's our job at Cruise Holidays Luxury Travel Boutique to help bring back cruising to the boomers that haven't experienced before, like yourselves. I think you'll enjoy it if you go on a cruise. You just wait.
Okay, so say I'm looking to book a cruise, and I'm speaking for myself and other boomers, what are the best cruises to look at for the summer months, for instance? Let's look at time of year.
Right.
What are some of your favorites?
Well, believe it or not, the summertime, Alaska is a great destination. I wasn't too interested in ever going to Alaska until I sent a number of clients up there. And all of them came back and said, what a wonderful experience it was. It's a truly unique experience. The glaciers are something to behold. I mean, the colors, the hue, the sounds of the calving of the glaciers as they break into the water is something you'll never experience anywhere else. And then Alaska itself is one of the last untamed frontiers in North America, and it's very convenient for Canadians as well. So that's a wonderful destination. Asia is another very popular destination these days. Asia has changed so much over the last 10 years that people really want to see what that's like.
Presumably you fly to Asia, you don't necessarily cross the Pacific for a
Well,
week.
you'd be surprised. We
They do
have some
that.
clients that go on a cruise for 30 or more days,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they
that's-
will go from Los Angeles to Japan to Beijing to Hong Kong and Southeast Asia. So there are some people that do that, but you're right. Most people will fly to Hong Kong or Singapore and board a cruise ship there for 10 days.
Right.
And,
Okay, so say it's the winter months now. What might some of the more popular and recommended travel destinations be
Sure.
for a cruise, whether it's a river or an ocean?
Right.
Yes.
Well, I'll talk about ocean first, but there's an interesting market in the river cruising that I'd like to touch on as well. The Caribbean, of course, is a very popular destination.
In the winter.
In the winter
because we're
time.
trying to get away
Yes,
from the cold, which this year
absolutely.
is endless. So business
Absolutely.
must have been booming down there.
Well, it was, it certainly was, and our family went on a wonderful Caribbean cruise, and it was a very much looked forward to break from the winter we had. But there is a specialty market in Europe, which is fairly new. It's the Christmas markets, and the river cruise companies are opening up some of the more remote cities and towns, because in Europe they celebrate Christmas a little earlier than us. So in early December they have an itinerary that goes through these small towns, and you can see how the Europeans celebrate their Christmas. And it gets you in a wonderful mood. You come back, you can do all your Christmas shopping there and bring the gifts back, and then you're ready for Christmas here.
What a great idea.
interesting.
And what countries might you cover on
Well,
that kind of a cruise?
Germany, Austria, along the Danube, and you know, some of the towns are very small, and they have their traditional Christmas celebrations early in December, and each of them are unique. So
Sounds like a good family thing to do.
it
Yeah,
will be.
it would be. Peter, we all remember years ago the TV show The Loveboat,
Yes,
which
of course.
I suspect for a travel agent like you and your wife specializing in cruises was probably a blessing and a curse at the same time. Some people probably thought, wow, that looks like fun, but then there were people like me. I was so reluctant to go on a cruise because I thought I'm going to be roused up for volleyball practice or whatever. And in fact, took a cruise to Alaska, and it wasn't like the Loveboat at all. Is that a myth in people's minds that they should get out of their minds?
That is a myth. That is a myth, and thank God, not many people except you and I remember that show probably, but
Fair enough.
but it did paint a very stereotypical picture of what cruising was about,
Yeah.
and that has changed. That has certainly changed. They are catering to more active people. They're introducing newer products, going to much more interesting destinations these days as well.
So again, going back to those people who've never taken a cruise and aren't
Yes.
experienced the way Jim is here,
Sure.
what should we be considering when we do go on a cruise, or as we book, and also when we are booked? What do we take with us? I mean,
Yes.
there's this whole cruise fashion industry that has sprung up, and I know some people, women more than men, dress a particular way. So can you?
That certainly changed as well. I mean, 15 years ago, you had to bring an evening gown,
Yes.
and men had to wear tuxedos. And that was fun to certain people, but I think it's becoming a little bit more casual. It's more country club casual. You don't have to bring a tuxedo, but you should wear a shirt with a collar like you would at your golf club.
Oh, so there are dress codes. Depends
there
on
are-
the line
It
that you're
depends on the
traveling
line.
with.
It certainly depends on the line. But as the industry tries to reach out to a broader demographic, to younger people, to families with children, the dress codes have changed as well. But
Peter, I'm sure most of us don't know which are the good cruise lines and which are not so good. And I suppose the answer to that is, well, talk to an experienced
That's what
cruise
we're here
agent.
for,
But
yeah.
briefly for our audience, can you tell us which are some of the cruise lines that you recommend particularly?
Sure. Well, the cruise industry and the cruise lines are segmented in 3 or 4 categories. There's the ultra high-end luxury cruise lines where you have a private butler and you have a suite and you do wear a tuxedo. There's the middle market, which is catering to younger couples perhaps and more active people. And then there's the contemporary line, which is something for everybody, multi-generational travel. Our favorite line is Celebrity. It's a mid-market. It caters to a younger demographic. My wife loves river cruising, so we're kind of torn between doing one or the other, depending on who has the leverage at the point in time. So.
Right. Well, you've only got about 40 seconds, so one big last question. What's the best cruise you've ever taken and would recommend to anybody, whether they're experienced or not?
Well, I'll talk to you about not one that I did, but one my mother did, because it sounds fabulous and it's going to be on my bucket list. And she went from Miami through the Panama Canal down the coast of Latin America, and that was supposed to have been a wonderful, wonderful cruise.
And that would work for everybody. Great. Well, that is very exciting. Thank you, Peter. I don't know about Jim, but I'm ready to hop on a ship right after this show. Thanks for joining us tonight, but don't you go anywhere. Stick around and have a glass of wine with us right after we take this short break.